Some trails lead nowhere. Some mountains keep their secrets forever. And some hikers never come back to tell their story. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true accounts from men who ventured into the wilderness and encountered something that defies explanation. These are their stories, told in their own words. Stories that end not with answers, but with questions that still haunt them to this day. My name is Marcus, and I used to think I knew these mountains. I'd been hiking the Cascade Range for 15 years. Every trail, every peak, every hidden valley. I thought I'd seen it all. That was before Whispering Ridge. It was October 2019. I decided to tackle a lesser-known trail in the North Cascades, one that didn't appear on most maps. Local forums called it Whispering Ridge, though no official name existed. The trailhead was unmarked, just a gap in the trees off a forgotten logging road. The first few hours were normal. Pine needles crunching under my boots, the smell of cedar thick in the air, morning mist clinging to the forest floor. But around mile marker 7, something changed. The birds stopped singing, not gradually, but all at once, like someone had flipped a switch. The silence was suffocating. That's when I heard it, a whisper, soft, barely audible, like wind through leaves, except there was no wind. The air was completely still. I stopped, listening. The whisper came again, and this time I could almost make out words. It sounded like my name, Marcus, long and drawn out, echoing from somewhere ahead on the trail. I told myself it was just the wind, just my imagination, but deep down I knew better. The forest felt wrong. The trees seemed taller, closer together, leaning in like they were listening. I checked my GPS. The trail should have continued northeast, but my device showed nothing. No trail, no topography, just a blank screen with my blinking location dot in the middle of nowhere. I decided to turn back. That's when I realized I couldn't find my own footprints. The trail behind me looked completely undisturbed, as if I'd never walked it at all. Panic started to set in. I began jogging back the way I came, but the trail didn't look familiar anymore. The trees were different. The slope was wrong. Then I saw him, a figure standing about 50 yards ahead, perfectly still, facing away from me. He wore a dark jacket and a backpack exactly like mine. I called out, "Hey, do you know the way back to the trailhead?" He didn't respond, didn't move. I walked closer, my heart pounding. "Hey!" I shouted louder. When I was about 20 feet away, he turned around, and I understood why he hadn't answered. He had my face. Not similar, identical. Same scar above my left eyebrow, same crooked nose, same everything. He stared at me with empty eyes, and then he smiled, a slow, wrong smile that didn't reach those dead eyes. I ran. I don't remember much after that, just branches tearing at my jacket, my lungs burning, that whisper following me through the trees. "Marcus, stay! Marcus, stay!" Over and over until the words blurred together into a horrible chant. I burst through the tree line onto the logging road 6 hours later. My car was right where I'd left it, but when I checked my phone, 3 days had passed. 3 entire days gone. I have no memory of them. The authorities found nothing, no other hiker, no evidence of anyone else on that trail. My camera, which I'd brought to document the hike, contained only one photo I didn't take, a picture of me asleep against a tree, taken from about 6 feet away. I never went back to Whispering Ridge. Some nights I still hear those whispers, calling my name from somewhere just beyond the edge of sleep. And sometimes I catch my reflection moving just a second too slow, like it's remembering something I've forgotten. I'm David, and I work for the National Park Service. Or at least I used to. What I'm about to tell you is the reason I handed in my resignation 6 months ago. It was a routine search and rescue operation in the Appalachian Wilderness. A college student named Tyler Hendricks had gone missing 3 days prior. His last known location was near a trail called Devil's Backbone. I was part of a 6-person team combing the area. We split up to cover more ground, staying in radio contact. I was working through a particularly dense section of forest when I found them. Stairs, a perfectly intact staircase in the middle of nowhere. Not ruins, not overgrown, but pristine. Wooden steps rising up about 15 feet, leading to nothing, just ending in midair. I'd heard stories from other rangers, we all had, strange staircases scattered throughout national forests, always in remote areas, always in perfect condition. The unspoken rule was simple: never climb them, never touch them, report them, and move on. But this one was different. At the base of the stairs, I found Tyler's backpack. His ID was inside, along with his phone, dead but undamaged. I radioed my team, gave them my coordinates, and then I made the worst decision of my life. I looked up. Someone was standing at the top of the stairs. Tyler. He was staring down at me, not moving, not speaking. His lips were moving silently, like he was trying to tell me something. I called up to him. "Tyler, stay right there. We're going to get you down." He shook his head slowly, kept mouthing those silent words. I took a step closer to the stairs. That's when I felt it. A pull, like gravity had shifted, like the stairs were a magnet and I was made of iron. My foot moved toward the first step without my permission. I fought it, grabbed onto a tree, dug my heels into the ground. Tyler's expression changed from desperate to terrified. He was shaking his head violently now, his silent words faster, more urgent. And then I finally understood what he was saying. Don't climb, don't climb, don't climb. But something else was pulling me, whispers in my mind, promising answers, promising safety, promising everything would make sense if I just took one step, just one. My foot touched the first stair. The world lurched, color drained away, sound became muffled, distant, like I was underwater. I looked up and Tyler was gone. The stairs stretched up impossibly high now, disappearing into a sky that had turned the color of old bruises. I yanked my foot back and the world snapped back to normal. My team found me an hour later, unconscious at the base of the stairs. They said I was convulsing when they arrived, speaking in a language none of them recognized. Tyler's backpack was gone. When we searched the area, the stairs were gone too. Completely vanished, not even disturbed earth where they'd stood. We never found Tyler Hendricks, but 3 weeks later, I was hiking alone on my day off, 50 miles from where we'd conducted the search. I found another staircase, and at the top, Tyler stood waiting, still mouthing those same silent words. Don't climb. I see them everywhere now. Different forests, different states, always the stairs, always Tyler at the top. Each time the pull is stronger, each time it takes more effort to walk away. I don't know how much longer I can resist, and that's why I quit, because I know, eventually, I'm going to climb, and I need to be as far from those woods as possible when the urge finally becomes too strong to fight. My name is Jackson, and I'm a cartographer, or I was before all this started. My job was to create detailed topographical maps of remote wilderness areas. I relied on satellite imagery, GPS data, and old-fashioned ground surveys. I trusted numbers, coordinates, measurable reality. In August 2021, I was contracted to map a section of the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. Standard job, nothing unusual, but when I was processing the satellite data, I noticed something odd. A mountain peak that showed up on images from 2018, but not on any earlier or later images, like it had appeared for a few months and then vanished. I assumed it was a processing error. Mountains don't just appear and disappear, but my curiosity got the better of me.
I cross-referenced with geological surveys, old maps, even historical photographs. Nothing. No record of this peak existing. But there it was on those 2018 images, clear as day. I decided to investigate, in person. I know, stupid decision, but I needed to understand. I needed it to make sense. I packed my equipment and headed to the coordinates where the peak should have been. The first 2 days of hiking were normal. I followed ridge lines, crossed valleys, checked my GPS constantly. On the third day, at dawn, I saw it. A mountain peak that wasn't on my current maps, rising up exactly where the 2018 images showed it. Impossible, but there it was. The peak was beautiful in a wrong way. The stone was too dark, almost black, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No snow on the summit, even though surrounding peaks were covered. I approached, taking measurements, photographs, trying to document everything. At the base of the mountain, I found a cave entrance. Inside, the walls were covered in symbols, not carved, but part of the rock itself, like they'd grown there. They weren't any language I recognized, but looking at them made my head hurt, made my vision blur. I took photos and turned to leave. That's when I heard the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, coming from deeper in the cave. I ran, got outside, looked back. A figure emerged from the darkness. It was shaped like a man, but wrong, too tall, limbs bent at angles that didn't match human anatomy, and its face, God, its face was a smooth, blank expanse of that same light-absorbing black stone. I ran down the mountain, not caring about trails, just running. When I finally stopped and looked back, the peak was gone, completely gone. I checked my GPS. The coordinates showed I was standing on flat ground, but I'd just run down a mountain. I had the photos, the measurements. It had been real. When I made it back to civilization and checked my camera, all the photos were corrupted, static and noise, all except one, the last photo I'd taken before seeing that figure. It showed me standing in the cave, but I was facing the camera. I hadn't taken a selfie. Someone or something had been holding my camera while I looked at those symbols. I returned to the location 6 times over the next year. The mountain appeared twice. Once I saw it from a distance and didn't approach. The second time, I saw other people climbing it, 3 hikers heading for the summit. I tried to warn them, screaming until my voice gave out. They couldn't hear me, or they didn't exist in the same reality I did. Those hikers were reported missing 2 weeks later. The search and rescue found nothing, because how do you search for people on a mountain that only exists sometimes? How do you explain that to their families? I don't work as a cartographer anymore. I can't, because now I know the truth. The maps are incomplete. There are places that exist in the gaps between reality, mountains that phase in and out of our world, and sometimes people wander into those gaps and never find their way back out. I still have dreams about that black peak. In them, I'm climbing, always climbing, and I can hear voices calling from the summit. They sound like those missing hikers. They sound like they're still there, trapped on a mountain that doesn't exist, calling for help that will never come.
3 men, 3 impossible encounters, 3 mysteries that remain unsolved. Marcus still hears whispers from a trail that stole 3 days of his life. David fights an urge to climb stairs that exist outside of reason. And Jackson knows there are mountains that appear and disappear, taking people with them. These stories have no explanations, no answers, just questions that echo in the dark spaces between the trees. The wilderness keeps its secrets, and sometimes it keeps the people who dare to search for them. If you're heading into the woods, remember, some trails should never be followed, some stairs should never be climbed, and some mountains should never be found. Because once you've seen what's really out there, you can never unsee it. Stay safe out there, or better yet, stay home.